Hey, bonjour, life sparkers. It's Claire. Welcome on the Integral Your Life podcast, and thanks for listening. Here we explore stories, wisdom, and tools for transforming resistance into resilience, quitting stress, and living the life you choose. My guest today is just a regular guy who happens to have a disability called spinal muscular atrophy, and means he cannot walk, lift anything heavier than a book, or shower himself. And he is a living proof of everything is possible, which is happens to be the title of his book. He co-founded and runs his company Disability Horizons, has a degree in economics and masters in marketing, has presented for the BBC. He's also a blogger and a speaker to bring awareness on disability and world changes. He drives his own adapted car. He loves adventure travels. And he has flown a plane, enjoys kayaking, scuba diving, flying a balloon, and he's been to the moon. Okay, not on the moon yet, but I'm sure that by the next time he comes here, that will be done. And well, just go on our website, martynsibley.com, and you'll find more on him. But more recently, he began a project which is all about empowering world changers. And you can join this amazing tribe on the Facebook group World Changers. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, did you recognize the one and only Martyn sibley? Oh, hello, Martyn. I'm so thrilled to welcome you back on the show today.
Oh, thank you for having me, Claire. It's always a pleasure to be on this great podcast.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure to have you. So, in our last interview, we talked about your adventure, which led to the book Everything is Possible. And we discovered a lot about your story. And guys, if you didn't listen to it, well, then it's next on your list because it explains a lot about what is your why of Martyn. So go and listen to it. But today is going to be about changing the world, about caring, having a dream, and acting on it. So, Martyn, what is a world changer for you? Because it sounds a bit grandiose, like excuse me, babe, can talk right now. I'm going to go change the world now. So,
yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, it's actually a lot more humble than it sounds. I think, as you know, when we talked last time about my work with disability, that I'm all about accessibility and, of course, inclusion. And so I think what I've learned along the way is that the more that I didn't put a pressure on myself to do ridiculously big actions, but to do things every day or every week that just learn a bit more, help a bit more to other people, create a bit more. A bit like when you look into investing and finances, you have the compound interest. And I think by just being a little bit better every day consistently, it actually builds up into something quite meaningful after all, but without all of the pressure and the grandiosity, as you said before. So when I talk about world changers with this project, I say that it's any professional who is working for social good. So they might be in a social enterprise or a charity, but essentially their mission and their aim is all about trying to make the world better. But then really when I help them with my coaching and all the tools and strategies, it's getting them to see that they all can have a massive impact without being some egotistical maniac and all of the grandiosity that sometimes gets lost in the media.
Yeah, kind of the superhero complex, right?
Yeah, exactly. Messiah complex as well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and actually, do you think I love your compound interest idea? Actually, doing small things that add up to a greater view, than trying to go for the greater view like right now and being kind of discouraged or dissatisfied with what you're doing because it's just too big for now. And do you see that this kind of grandiosity bias can restrain some people to actually become active in changing something? Like some kind of I'm not big enough, or who am I to do this kind of thinking?
Definitely. I mean, I've written a book the other day. There's an author called John Acuff, I think he pronounces his surname Acuff, and the book was called Finish. and it really was all about how perfectionism is the enemy. And so it really explained well that when we try to do anything to a bigger scale, but particularly, but I don't think whether it's big or small is a problem in itself, but I think when we want to do it so perfectly, that definitely is when we are then paralyzed by the fear that because it can't ever be perfect. It just won't ever be perfect. So, there still is a place for understanding the kind of people or the cause that you want to help have an impact with, and to look at how you, with your personal skills and experiences, can be a part of that cause. But yeah, I think absolutely that being too big a aim, or particularly too perfect an aim, is what stops most people from starting. Because why would you want to start something when you know you're going to fail compared to the bar that you've set too high?
Yeah, I love the distinction you make about perfection and this kind of small or big action, because really it's about what we want to put in the words. And I also think about scalability. Like, I know, for example, the shift I made and the decision I made to go online and to build an online course and so on was to scale my impact. Because on one-on-one session, I can have a big impact, but on one person at a time. And so it's limited. Maybe I can touch 30, maybe 35% a week, and that would be a very big week. But if I go online and I can touch more people, then maybe this change is going also faster and is faster and impacting more people. But how do you manage these? Working with individual, and then you have a big impact, of course. You're literally changing lives. And changing, actually, there's two questions in that one, because it's also what I realized when I was doing this shift is I want to change society as well. So I want to help people having a better life, and then helping them to change. But then for this to happen, I also need somehow society to change, and it would be so easier if society would make the smaller change. So for me, it's all about the stigma that are around mental health, for example. So I feel more and more the need to work on two scales, and it's not always easy to reconcile. How do you work around that, or do you see that at all in your world changes project?
Yeah, that definitely resonates. I think well, when you were talking about the scale and the impact on the people that can benefit from your general thoughts and advice and experience and skills, there's undoubtedly an element there about how we, as the person delivering all of this content, has an income to live from as well. So I think one of the areas that can be, maybe it's a British thing, I don't know, but is about feeling a bit awkward about the money stuff. And so that's something I've had to really overcome, that, my personal view and experience is valuable to someone that is looking to gain those types of insights. And so charging and making an income for that is not bad. And so that's been something that had to happen. And then obviously, as you say, there's the two sides of that with the scalability, because when you only can see people one-to-one, it limits your income and it limits the amount of people you have an impact. So being able to scale is really a win-win, because you're able to have a better income and also, as you say, impact more people. And I think that the point about society is, that there's almost a consequence of that the more people like you and I and others in our space touch upon and help, that in the long run has a butterfly effect. And, over time, and with all the different people in that space, society does change as well. When I look at disability, my condition, being in a wheelchair, needing quite a lot of care support every day, sort of 1960s, I probably would have been in a care home in the country. So we can see when we look back at the improvements actually of a lot of social issues. But then, yeah, there's still a long way to go, and that's why we have our missions and our causes that we all care about to keep making the world better. But I think that exact point about scaling was a massive thing for me last year, was having had a couple of entrepreneurial successes in disability. I wanted to take my knowledge to an audience beyond disability, but also upskill in the area of online coaching and online courses. So yeah, it's quite a nice, exciting looking ahead to this year at the plans I've got because of last year's sort of educational year.
Interesting. So actually, yeah, you've been involved in shifting things around disability for a while now. So what was the push to this project, and why opening up to a wider scope? I mean, we actually, I remember we discussed it in the last interview where you were sharing your daily life actually and the challenges you have and so on. And I was like, well, of course it's relevant to disabled people, but it's relevant for all of us actually, because you have to face many challenges, and the way you have at least the gift to share it in a way that makes it relevant to everyone. Everyone can listen and can take something from it. So yeah, what was the push for this project?
Well, I think the first thing to make clear is that the disability work still carries on. In fact, we're getting bigger with the magazine that I co-founded called Disability Horizons. Some of these things that I'd learned more with world changers in mind, we're also now applying to the disabled community that we serve. So there's some exciting plans and growth going on there anyway. But exactly as you just said, I think that as I felt like I was talking to disabled people. That was my mission, that was my cause. There were lots of people without a disability that were inspired and motivated.
Yes.
And interested.
I am.
And that wasn't something I was aware of or looking for. But as it gradually became clear that I can have that impact in the non-disabled world, not to label everything. That was already something about, that my blog and my talks can do that. But then to actually give it a little bit more of a structure, and not just sort of say, this is for everyone in the world. The world changes thing just felt like that. I was always, when I was, and I think we touched upon this last time as well, but I didn't plan to work for disability because it had felt quite cliche when I was a teenager. And so whilst I'm very at ease and comfortable with that now, but I think there's still that part where, I don't have to just be in that box. So to go a little bit, I suppose, to a leadership, an influencer level, having had 10 years of blogging and all the things I've done, if I can help someone that wants to make a difference on the environment or racism or homophobia or whatever else it might be, with that social, good point, then that just seemed like a natural progression as in my journey, really.
Yeah, no, you're totally inspiring to many people, and I'm including myself in the lot totally. Yeah. And so, what do you see world changers struggling the most? Where do you help the most?
I think, to put it in a simplistic way, there's stuff around time, lack of time, energy, lack of energy, and the finance stuff does come up. But I think, any entrepreneur is trying to crack the balance of serving their audience, creating a solution, and making enough money to live off. But generally in the more general entrepreneurship, you're looking to absolutely maximize profit and all the rest of it. I think when you come into social good, you know that you need money and other resources to deliver your impact, but there can sometimes be a guilt complex as well around, is it okay to earn money while doing something social and also
Yeah.
that you enjoy as well? And maybe other entrepreneurs have that feeling that when they love their job, it just seems strange to be earning money as well. Um, so yeah, I guess simplistically, there's a thing around time, energy, and money, but obviously that manifests in other ways as well. The sort of needing tools and strategies that can then help them overcome those barriers.
Yeah. Well, actually, about money, you were mentioning England, but I think it's at least European thing to, and I think it comes back to the history of before, like nurses, for example, the first nurses, they were, it was volunteer work. It was not paid work. It was from the church. They were nuns. So we had to shift from this view of kind of charity to jobs, actual jobs, and you have to train for that, and etc., etc. And actually, not late than at Christmas, someone told me. Well, I was explaining what I was doing, and I was like, "Oh, okay." So, in a sense, you're making profit on people's misery. I was like, "Wow, well, that's a way to see it." But I hope it's not the way my clients see it. I mean, I know they don't, but it's to say that it's still. This vision is still up and running in so many people's minds, and I agree with you. I mean, I had to work on that as well, and I think, and most of the healers, whatever we need to call it, helpers, world changers, had to work on that. The fact that it's okay to charge money to help people, even if they are experiencing big difficulties, because it's your time and your energy and so on. So yeah, that's a big one. But what do you mean more specifically by lack of time or energy?
Yeah, I mean, I guess going into my personal story again is the easiest way to show it. Is when I was working at a very big charity, so there was still. It was a charity for disabled people, so it to some degree was within my overall mission and cause, but it was Monday to Friday 9 to 5 in an office, and my actual role was very, very specific. There wasn't much room for being so creative or varied, which is absolutely what I love now. And so there were all these things that I really wanted to do, but I didn't have the time to do that. And so again, if you're able to learn the skills and the tools and approaches of getting that balance between, I guess like a work-life balance.
Yes, yes.
So sometimes that is being able to leave the actual job that is sustaining you, but with a new thing that can also sustain you. But then also a couple of years into my entrepreneurial life, and I was working longer hours than I was at the charity. And yet I still just didn't have enough time to get everything. And so that really is about getting a clarity on what it is that people want to change, and having a compass and a map and a focus along the way. Because I guess the kind of world changers I work with are, and again, like myself, are quite easily distracted. So that you're like, yeah, this year it's all about this specific thing. And then someone else comes along and says, oh, would you like to work with us on this? And you're like, oh, squirrel, like a dog chasing the squirrel. So, I guess it's a factor of different parts of the journey and different reasons. But in the end, it's that we know what the legacy and the impact is we want to have deep down, but is trying to be able to have the time to actually do that. But also, I think the time for our health and relationships and hey, having a holiday again, like when you're self-employed, you feel guilty sometimes when you go on holiday because you're the one that if you're not working, you're not earning. So there's definitely a few elements of guilt coming to a lot of the world changers I work with as well.
Yeah, I totally can. Not that I do it myself, but I can totally see. Well, and like you said, it comes with being self-entrepreneur, and most of the time, when you do that, you're passion-driven. So sometimes what you do doesn't feel like work, and it's easy then to add hours and add hours to that, and then realizing, wait a minute, there's only work in my life. Where's the balance? Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we talked a bit in the last one about, personally, I had to watch things like my health and energy, and maybe a bit more because of my disability. But I think, again, that experience I went through of burning out a couple of times really taught me that, you're the golden goose. You have to love yourself, because all of the great projects or products or services are not going to happen if you are not well in yourself.
Yeah, I like this image of the golden goose. It's a nice image to remember. It's happening, thanks to you. So if you're not there, there's no eggs anymore. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it can also help to get, like you say, we have this big image down the road, and we kind of know and not know how to get there. So sometimes it's not even really easy to know really where priorities are, because everything, and especially if you're working as a social entrepreneur and world changer, everything is important. Everything seems urgent.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's very difficult to resist the urge actually to, this is important. I'm following that and I'm following that. And so to keep your priorities in mind.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a very important thing. And again, to quote someone else that I've learned from recently, Ajit, who's very much involved in the Mind Valley world that you and I have.
Ajit Nawalka.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And he wrote the book Live Big. And one of the things he put in there that, you do need your passion and you do need your purpose. And I think a lot of social entrepreneur and world changers, that bit's generally covered. But you also need processes, and that is with technology, with people, and again, when we talk about money earlier, it's not only about the money that you're paying yourself; it's also the money that can enable you to deliver the impact for the cause. So it could be about office space, or it could be about staff and team members. So yeah, it's definitely not only your income and your salary. Money is a factor there, but really another important thing is delegation. And I've learned that with Disability Horizons, we're still in the midst of slowly but surely getting more of a regular revenue from sort of advertising and sponsorship. But we also have used a lot of volunteers and interns. And so that's an alternative to the money side, is if it's a really true social cause, people will rally around it and give their time for free. But it's knowing how to harness that as well. But yeah, once you've got the right processes, then it's easier to reach that end goal that you are flexible to some degree with, but broadly you know where you're aiming, and I think that's been a really important lesson for me the last year.
Yeah, it actually reminds me of a discussion I had with a friend who is a social entrepreneur, and who he chose to have an NGO instead of a regular company. And we were talking about this choice, and I felt almost guilty to want to have a regular company, like for-profit company.
Sounds dirty, doesn't it?
Yeah. So all of a sudden it's like, for-profit. But I actually realized on my point of view, he's kind of losing a lot of time to go around his lack of money in his company. So he's spending a lot of time to do some kind of paperwork to get some money from the government or from Europe or from whatever. And because his company is set for non-profit, he has to do that. So in the end, I felt like, no, I want to be free to do things how I see they should be done. And it's often a big thing. I mean, I'm sure it's the same with disability, but when it comes to mental health, why am I doing what I'm doing now? There is a lack. in governmental, in the ways governments are handling mental health. There is a big lack. So if I'm going to have an NGO, actually, there's, again, I'm asking two questions in one. I'm the queen for that, I'm sorry. But again, if I'm having an NGO, first, I have to actually spend a lot of time to get a little bit of money. So I'd rather have a regular company, make some money, and then have it for whatever I want to do. And maybe, I mean, one of my target in the long run is actually having an NGO funded by my company to go and do some suicide preventions in school. And this I will be able to do for non-profit because I'm making profits on another end. That's another story. But then also you have money to act, then you can do what you think is best. And I'm not saying I am the best and I know what's best for everyone. But oftentimes, like, and I see that with this friend, he's struggling with the politics then of the city and to have a place. And it's not only about what's best for people, it's also what's best for the next elections and so on. So it's not actually really free of what he's doing. So in the end, money can be a very big help, actually, to do what we want.
Yeah. Yeah, my advice is to people when they ask me, unless there's a very specific benefit of the charity or the NGO route, I say don't do it, because if you actually think that the charities exist for the group they serve, for the members, but what we sometimes forget is that a business, whether it is selling widgets or, you know, goods and services, or now more and more, we are selling knowledge. I mean, it's become a knowledge economy, and there's such a need for knowledge that helps people and makes the world better. But actually, I don't see a massive difference in the end than the older types of industries when it was more products and services. So you are exactly saying to your group of customers, what do you need? What are your difficulties? How can we solve it? And once you've worked out how to solve it, you have to make it sustainable. And, you know, obviously, when I suppose that the difficulty with the profit is if you've got like a load of shareholders and that type of business, then there's a bit of a conflict in the social cause with the maximizing of profit. But when it's a small or medium enterprise and it is run by individuals that have that sort of lived experience and passion, I don't think it matters much either way, apart from the bureaucracy and the politics that a lot of NGOs do face. And I saw that out there. I loved working for the charity in London. They're a fantastic charity. They've got, at the moment, the history that they bring in a lot of money through fundraising. But if I was to start running my projects on grants 2-3 years away, it might all stop again if I can't get the grant. So it's so many reasons I felt that what I would say is a social enterprise is the way to go, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. So what would you be the number one advice to world changers? And I know it's an impossible question, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a few layers running through my head. I think a lot of the things I'd learned through being involved with Mind Valley about being more centered and calmer and having time for meditation or journaling, and and I think some people get a bit worried that they have to meditate for 5 hours in absolute
at
silence.
least.
But it can be going for a walk or going swimming. Yes. And I think to block out the noise, and particularly the noise that is always vying for your attention, but for not necessarily the things you should be working on, is very important. And I think if people can find that time and make that effort, then the other things like having clarity, making impact, having freedom, both in work and out of work, that they will come more consequentially. But I think it does start with being that sort of calmer and centered, really.
Yeah, I love that. It comes back to the being the golden goose, right? Taking care of yourself, and then the rest can be taken care of. Yeah. So I know you have a course coming up soon. Do you want to share a little bit of what is going to happen there? I mean, already I can say that the Facebook group is really active, and I always want to participate more. It's just not the right moment for me now, but I love seeing what's happening in there and the enthusiasms and the inspiration that goes there. So I'm positive the course will be a great step forward as well.
Yeah, well, I suppose that the journey to the course was that I had this idea that I've always said that I'm a world changer on my email signature and on my blogs with the disability work. And so it made sense to kind of use that as a brand, if you like, for this social good project. And then having been in quite a few courses last year where I was learning how to do online courses and how to, market them and all that sort of things I needed to learn, I started to see the ways that those teachers and coaches use tools. So I knew that if I could get world changers from my blog and my social media, who I knew were already following me, I knew there were going to be plenty of world changers in my ecosystem, shall we say. But it would be great to get them into a closed Facebook group where I would get the chance to gather my thoughts on what I felt was helpful, but also for them to tell me, actually, that was rubbish or not, or that it was good. And I thought if I got 5 or 10 people, I can sort of dip my toe in and just, it was almost a bit of a hobby and let's see what happens. And it really quickly got over 100 people. And as you say, there are people that are just maybe join the group, but they've got other things going on. I think there's a lot that observe and they pick up little bits, but they're not as engaged. And then there's probably 10 or 20 that are quite chiming in with different updates as well. So the next thing was, well, I'd love to do my own course. I've never really done a course that I've then put on Teachable and all that sort of stuff. So for the last 3 months I've been sketching out the needs and solutions and gradually put them into modules. And I think mostly I needed the time to just calmly, like I said, being centered, etc. Arrive at the right outcome. But there's definitely been a bit of that resistance of, oh my God, we talked earlier about perfectionism. We're sort of thinking, oh, is it good? And will people like it? But the last sort of week or two, I'm really, really happy with the modules and the exercises and all of that kind of stuff's all good to go. So literally later today that we're interviewing, I'm going to push the button and release it to the Facebook group.
Yay!
And so it's a 6-week course, and it will give people who want to change the world the tools and the strategies anyway.
Oh, that's great. That's good news. So can you still?
Yeah, we're okay.
Can you? Oh, okay. Yeah, and I was saying, that's good news. Sounds so good. And again, seeing from what's happening in the Facebook group, and I'm curious to see the course for sure.
Yeah, and the plan is that the first intake, I will teach it every week live to those people, but then I will record that, and then that will go up for the later students. It will then be the recording. So the people that have been in the group and very engaged are going to get the chance to have that sort of closer contact with me. But then, it will sort of go out more with the recording, but then there'll be another Facebook group for the students to interact with as well. So.
Sounds all good.
Exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So Now, guys, if you're used to listen to the show, you know that my last question usually is, what makes you feel alive? Now, Martyn has been here before, so he answered that question in the last episode. So go listen to it because it's a great answer. So there's a little bit of suspense here, but
I'm going to have to go back and remind you.
Actually, honestly, if I remember well, the whole episode was kind of an answer to that. It was great. I really love this episode. So there won't be this usual question, last question, but do you have anything more that we forgot and you would really like to our listeners to hear right now?
No, I guess it's just to reaffirm my message that, you know, all of the things I now do or that I love doing and I'm passionate about, and I think it does come through. And I guess, you know, if anyone listens that has a disability, then, you know, we're always happy to have a chat and to follow Disability Horizons about those specific barriers and difficulties. Obviously, with people that are doing social good, feel free to get involved with the World Changers, because I've got a good feeling about this one, actually. I think it's going to really be a way of making a much bigger impact by being able to empower leaders, like sort of a real bigger ripple effect is great. But obviously anyone just that enjoys following my travels and my work, I'm glad that it has that effect too, because that's why I put so much online, for that reason.
Yeah, actually I really love, I mean that's also one reason you're here, right? I really love this last project you took on, and I really feel seeing what's been happening in the Facebook group for just the first day to there's really a kind of evolution going on, and I'm struggling to find the right word, but momentum, that's it. Momentum going on and starting. So I'm expecting that it will go on and even more with the course. So yeah, that's really exciting news.
And I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person in the summer, Claire.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yes. So wow, I really enjoyed these conversations. I'm sure my listeners, you guys, got a lot of insight from it. We're going to wrap it for today, but make sure you check Martyn Sibley's work. And the links, well, you know, as usual, they will be on my website and the show notes, but you can find him on his website, martynsibley.com, MartynSibley.com. There's a lot of Y in this name. I always get confused. DisabilityHorizons.com, and of course the Facebook World Changes group. Really easy to find. And that's the end of the episode. So thank you, Martyn, for putting this out in the world, because I really believe in what you do, and it's really it's always a great pleasure to meet the kind of simple and great energy you put in that, and the enthusiasm and your generosity in sharing your knowledge and tools. So thank you very much for that and for being with us today.
Thank you, Claire.
And thanks for everyone for listening. If you like what you hear, check the website integrallyalive.com for the show notes. Leave a comment. I love reading your feedbacks. Subscribe to the podcast and rate it on iTunes so you will help more people to get access to this information. Until next time, until then, keep sparking life and going from alive-ish to alive. Bye-bye. À bientôt.